based in 2013. And so this is the graph. These are the composite scores over time. There's trouble, there's perfect, and there's UNH, USNH in the middle. This corresponds to bond ratings. This is not Rudy or I give, these are the actual bond ratings of the system. UNH does not have a separate bond rating. Everything it borrows is through the system. So, fourth highest bond rating out of 24, either by Moody's or S&P. Why? Here's where they give this. The bond report gives strengths and weaknesses. So on the good side, flagship university in the States, important role to the state economy, a lot of students. Multi-year operating surpluses, those that has cash flows that they like. Sufficient debt coverage. History of positive operations contributing to balance sheet strengthening. That means the reserves are strong. That's their fancy words for reserves are strong. No new addition. They're not going to borrow more money. On the downside, the big cut in 2012, low level of state support plus the cut. Moderate fundraising ability, high tuition, and tuition's a large percentage of revenues. We'll continue to have to rely on tuition increases, but as I'll show you, you guys know there's no tuition increase for the year we're in now, and for 14-15 there's already been a claim that there will not be a tuition increase. Tuition, undergraduate resident tuition will remain flat again next year. So let's look at where the money's coming from. By the way, we're almost halfway done. You guys are bored already, but we're almost halfway done. You guys can spell it. Oh, stop me anytime. Anytime. Whenever you have some. Yes?
Just about a week and a half ago, the trustees voted to borrow, I think, close to 50 million.
50?
50 million for various renovations, including this building, in fact. But is that reflected in?
No, it will not be. I mean,
Yeah.
let me. That's good. Let's go back. Let me talk about that. That's a good point. So let's get there. So this is for the fiscal year that ended June 30th of 13. But I think it's very relevant what you brought up because it shows you the room they have. But so you could see they haven't really borrowed anything new. So they borrowed another 50. And the reason they did it, they have the reserves to borrow against. They have the cash to deal with it. They don't want to just spend the reserves. They would rather borrow and then use it against it for. So this building, in my short walk through here, did look a tad on the old side. I'm not gonna. That's all I'm gonna say. It looked a tad old. And I've been to. I think I've been to more college campuses than almost any human being over the last 3 years. So I know what buildings look like. But this is a very nice room. This is what This was. No one had to come up here and help me. I just kind of turn this thing on, push a button or two, and boom, there it was. So that's good. No. So you guys, anyone teaching here? Any of you guys teaching here? So is it that easy to use this thing?
Well, not this exact room, but in Hammond's.
Yeah. So are the other rooms just nice in here? Or?
No. Not so much.
You got to start somewhere. This is a nice room, and it helps. So let's look at where the money's coming from. And here, there's a lot of takeaways I want you to get out of this, but I understand I'm throwing a lot of information at you in a quick time. But here's one thing to take home. Only 7% of total revenues come from the state. If you listen to the trustees, what they do is they say the denominator is not really 795 million because we can't include, if we exclude this revenue and that revenue and that revenue, then the state's 100%. Yeah, no kidding. If you exclude everything else.
They're geniuses.
So the denominator is, I don't mess with it. So the denominator is the whole thing. Now, the reason I have these shaded similar, tuition and auxiliaries go together. Auxiliaries, housing, dining, big ones here. You got a lot of dorms here. A lot of students stay in the dorms. Student union, bookstore, athletics. To the extent you're bringing athletics, that's also part of auxiliaries. So, and you wouldn't have this without this. You wouldn't, without tuition, you can't just, you're not just going to have people live in the dorms to live in the dorms. I don't think. But didn't we have a summer institute here one summer?
Yes.
Yeah, we were here. In the dorms. Yeah. How many years ago was that? 9, 10?
10.
Yeah.
12.
So there you go. So my third time ago, sorry. Anyway, this is almost starting to look like a private university. And I don't mean that flippantly or facetiously. It's starting, because when if I looked at some of the ones in New Hampshire, Anselm, is that one that's in Manchester? If you look at their pie chart, they don't have this, but these two together are about the same for them. This is really low, and the reason, we saw that on the graph that the state support is so low. In Michigan, where I am, for a typical public, for the University of Michigan, the flagship, it's about 5 or 6%. but they also have a hospital. Even if you take out the hospital, it's less than 10. Where I teach at Eastern Michigan, we're at about 19% supported by the state. In Ohio, most of the universities are in the high teens, maybe low 20s. So you guys are ahead of your time in making this percentage go down. It can't get much lower than this. In fact, given the upward slope for 14 and 15, I think this number will probably get closer to 10% with the increases. That's still not really a state university, a public university, but so be it. Now, here is just Durham. So here is just this campus here. I was able to parsing out using iPads data. So you can see about 2/3. And these two together are 58, while here they're 65. The system had 21% in grants. This place had so a little more grant going. So this university compared to the system as a whole has more grants. More grants are being written here, so it's a bigger part of the income. But the state's still the same. And even if so you guys really, so whenever I show the system, in essence, I'm showing what's happening here in Durham. But I still think with certain of these items I'm going to take out, I'm going to look to the extent we can to look at Durham. The audited financial statements, if you look at my sources here, the audited financial statements do not break out the universities by the different, the four colors here. They just report them all as one. They don't do that. Many do, some of the systems do. Oregon, Connecticut, California State University, University of California, they all present the big data, and then at the back, they present campus by campus. That's not done here. I think it should be, but it's not. So we just have to deal with what we have. This is, anyone here from Manchester? Go ahead.
What's in the other category? Because it's as big as the state.
Yeah, you gotta, well, it's everything else. They have a category called other, which is the biggest component of other. I'm not being facetious, they really have a category that says other. There's nothing, investment income's in there, which sometimes is negative, but I think the two biggest ones are other. They actually have 2 lines on their financial statements for other operating revenue, other non-operating revenue. That's all they said. And then investment income, which in some years is negative, but in 13 was a good year. So I think a good chunk of this was investment income. They had a very good year investment. Anyone here from Manchester? Anyone here been to Manchester? Okay. You can see how Manchester's much smaller. Look at it's only $11 million place, much smaller. You can see almost all of it. And they, in their financials on iPads, they do not break out tuition and fees and auxiliaries. They put it all in one number. So this is tuition fees and auxiliaries. I don't think they have much of a dorm presence there, is my guess.
No.
But they do. I assume they do sell. The kids got to eat food. Don't they have to eat lunch during the day? I assume they have a place to eat. No.
I think they have a couple of places that are.
So you're telling me people just no one, they just drive their car, park, go to class, and go home.
It's literally 2 buildings.
So there are restaurants.
Yeah.
Around there. Okay. So they're not.
Parking's really expensive.
All right. So this gives you a somewhat historical perspective going back to 2008. You can see what's happened. Here's that big decline in the state from 11 to 12. You can see auxiliaries doing a little better, grants and contracts. A lot of this increase in grants and contracts were Pell Grants. Federal Pell Grants got more generous with the federal stimulus bill that was passed in 2009, got into effect in 10 and 11. And now it's kind of going back to where it used to be. And you can see tuition doing that. But still, when you look at the total revenues, even here, when the state destroyed the place, why? This is $800 million. Yeah, the state dropped the appropriation from 100 to 50, give or take. But that $50 million was able to be covered by other sources. Unfortunately, the other source are the students and the families who go to school here. But still, the total revenues did not decline that significantly. Now, there's a lot of talk about discounting. Think of the sticker price. You go to buy a car, and you see a sticker. No one pays a sticker price. Well, I'm not so sure that's true here, but this is the sticker price. These are the allowances right off the top for tuition. Who gets that kind of stuff? Well, athletes get, a lot of the student athletes here, even though there's different ways of doing it. And people with special talents, people with very high, like we said, there's a program if you have a very high high school GPA or ACT score, you're going to get a reduced tuition or no tuition. That's all in here. And the discount rate is what percent of the 451 are they taking off? So it's the 131 over that. You can see it's a little less than a third, right? 150 over that would be a third. You guys with me on the third being 33%? Am I going, you guys with me on that math? You can see the discount rate did increase during the worst of the economic downturn, but now it's kind of back at 29%. So any claim that the administration would make that the tuition discounting is killing us, it's about the way it's always been. Now enrollment. Now I understand, you guys are bargaining and all that, and you guys don't bargain over enrollment. But enrollment's a big deal here, because it's such a big part of your tuition. You guys need to know what's going on. I think, whether you're full-time faculty or the lecturers union, you need to know what's going on in enrollment, because it's going to be an issue at the table as you guys discuss and deal with bargaining over compensation and other monetary issues. So what I have here, I break it up a couple different ways. First, undergrad, grad, and then degree seeking, and then non-degree seeking. This is the way it's presented and this is just UNH, by the way. So now I'm just here. We'll get Manchester. I have Manchester in there, but right now it's just here. And this comes from your Office of Institutional Research. I assume, I don't know who works in that office, but I assume you guys may know the people there. All they do is produce numbers and analysis for the university. And I'm calling 2014 the fall 13 enrollment. What you do is, in typically the 4th week of class or the 5th week, they take a snapshot in early October. Who's here? They do a count. Remember in high school you used to do a count day. You guys may not know that, but I don't know if they did it here, but where I did they did one. So they do a count, and the count is sent officially to the system, and this is based on that count. And so you can see the blue, if you can just, I won't look at the percent, you can see the blue generally higher, but maybe down from here to here. You do see the grad numbers going down. Look here, 2449 down to 2178. Undergrad, 11,000 and change up to 12,000 and change. Non-degree seeking students cut in half by 982 to 480. That's that light green bar. You can see the light green was a lot larger here than it was here. Just to give you an overall sense on enrollment. This is Manchester. I changed the scaling a little bit. You can see only 956 students. They've had an increase in their undergrad, in their degree seeking, but a big decrease in non-degree seeking students. From 366 down to 175. By the way, one other thing on enrollment. I'm using head count. There's also FTE, full-time equivalent students. Here, the difference between the two is not that significant. You don't have that many part-time students here. You have some, but not that much. And the ratio of full-time to part-time is not changing over this period. So whether you use head count or FTE, you get the same grasp. This is one of the more interesting things you discover.
Can I just
Sorry.
ask this quick question about those numbers, the one before this one? Yeah. I think it's been getting a little more complex in reasons of why some of this is happening, particularly when we're taking into account in and out of state tuition.
Well, we're getting there.
Okay.
We're about to get right there.
Okay, wait.
We're on our way. And that's the biggest surprise that I found.
Right.
When I go into these, I don't know what I'm going to find. I have no preconceived notions on what I'm going to find. And I saw this in Oregon, at the University of Oregon, and it's certainly true at the University of Michigan, though they get a lot of heat from it. And that's the percentage of students at UNH here in Durham that are from the state of New Hampshire. First, I was surprised that the level was so low, that you attract that many out-of-state students, because state universities should be, majority in-state students. So I think it's great that you attract out-of-state students, as we'll show you, to get into the complexity when you get into the difference in tuition. We're going to get
Right.
and we can see so look at 60% and now 55%. That may not sound like a lot, but I'm going to show you that's a big deal. And you can see New Hampshire residents, 9,000 in 2008, just barely above 8,000 now, a 10% drop over this 6-year period, but a 13% increase in non-resident, leading to basically flat over the time period. So you're replacing in-state residents with state residents. Now, an administrator may say, oh, well, there's not as many high school age children, and they do all sorts of studies like that. What's driving it is tuition. Now here, before I get to that, I looked at it by college and then by degree down here to see, and I didn't do this just to say one college is better than another. I just put all these numbers in. I just wanted to see what was going on. And that's the College of Liberal Arts is the one. That's COL. I use the abbreviations that you guys use. I don't know if you guys use those or am I just...
Yeah.
Okay. I want to be hip, I want to use the same abbreviations you guys use. So, Well, you know, when you spend enough time online with the university, I always deride online education. Now I am finding everything I can online. But you see the acronyms come up again and again and again. So if you guys, I can see the acronyms get used, so that's why I just use them. I couldn't find the acronym. For business economics, they use the name of the person.
Frisbee.
Well,
Yeah.
it was, but it's not Paul.